Marco Rubio has taken there to the lectern, so let's listen in.
How blessed we are for the men and women who work at the National Hurricane Center and the hard work that they're doing, and we're seeing that come to fruition as those capabilities expand. I think the message that consistently delivering is the one that I want to bring to bear here as well. Number one is, if you live anywhere on the east coast of Florida and up into the central part of the state, you need to understand that here over the next 24 hours the weather is going to deteriorate rapidly. Don't focus so much on the cone as you should on the fact that here over the next few hours the winds are going to begin to pick up, the rain is going to come in, and you need to be prepared for what that means. You need to be prepared for the fact that even if you're not within the cone, as you see of the hurricane projection, you're going to have tropical storm level winds that really are a public health threat to people who are not prepared. And so I would encourage everyone on the east coast of Florida to prepare for the storm as if the cone was headed right for you. And if you're over-prepared and it passes and it doesn't impact you, nothing's been lost. If, however, it catches us by surprise, if there's any change in the track at the last minute, you will not have the capability to move quickly. I want to take this opportunity to encourage both public and private employers to consider allowing their employees to go home a little earlier today. Sundown on the East Coast is going to be around 7:15 p.m. So if people have to put up shutters, they've only got a handful of hours to do it. I would encourage homeowners to look at their insurance policy. Many people don't realize that their home is insured as a home with shutters. If you do not use these shutters and you suffer damage, you may not be covered, depending on your insurance policy. So I hope employers will consider doing that, allowing employees to go home a little earlier today so they can make preparations to secure their homes as well. Obviously, from the federal perspective, we're interested in three key things. Number one, the Coast Guard is monitoring all of our ports. These ports, in many cases, are the way we get fuel into our stations and other products into our stores. And I know they're doing an excellent job of keeping an eye on that. At some point here over the next few hours, these ports will close, and that will eventually play out over the next couple days. The second thing is being in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers, which manages Lake Okeechobee, which is a big part of the way we manage water in Florida. And, of course, always concerned about some sort of event that would breach the dike at Lake Okeechobee, the impact that could have south of the lake, and the water management issues it can create beyond. They assure us that while the levels are uncomfortably high, they have a plan both to manage it and to mitigate any unforeseen circumstances. The third is we've been in contact with local governments about being prepared to present as necessary once a declaration is made for the FEMA process. We are still today dealing with FEMA reimbursements that go back a decade, and we want to make sure that none of our local governments find themselves in a situation where they have a problem getting reimbursed by FEMA. And so we, again, are going through that process and ensuring that all of our local governments are prepared for their FEMA claims. But I go back to the point I started with, and that is no matter where you live on the east coast of Florida, you are going to be impacted by either a tropical storm or hurricane-force winds over the next 24 to 36 hours. You only have a handful of hours to prepare. If you have to put up manual shutters, not the accordions, you only have a handful of hours to do that now. And I would encourage employers, both public and private, to consider allowing employees to have adequate time to get home and complete that process. En español quiero decir que primero, si estás viviendo en la costa este del estado de la Florida.
Marco Rubio there, Senator Marco Rubio, giving some pretty good advice. Yeah. Something that we haven't really heard. We heard a lot of the same from what we've heard from county officials as well as the governor, treating this cone, not looking at just the cone, but treating it as if you were going to get a direct hit, being prepared, because if that cone makes a last-minute change and you're not prepared, then you are set scrambling to try to figure out a game plan there. But some good pieces of advice that I took away from this. Homeowners, that insurance of yours, go ahead and review your policy, because you may not be able to get some coverage or assistance if you did not actually put your shutters up. So that's some good advice. Also encouraging employers, please let your people out early. Allow them to be able to go home and install shutters, because once they get out normal time, only so much daylight there that they get to install shutters. So
right, and a lot of these new homes were built with the accordion shutters already on them. So when the house is built with the shutters already on them, and this is a very, very good point that he raised that we haven't discussed at all this morning, is that your insurance policy makes the assumption that in a storm like this that they are closed. And if you have damage, then that damage is going to be your responsibility, because those shutters were not closed and not the insurance company's responsibility. So yeah, Shelley, that's very good advice, and that's something that we haven't heard anything about, is to pull out that insurance policy and see what it says. Not that that's any excuse for not putting up your hurricane shutters anyway, but that should add fuel to the fire as to why you should be even more prepared to make sure that you're covered under the insurance policy that you pay for.